All right. So I see everyone's who's here. I love that you've all joined me. I know I've got everyone's emails because I'm going to be sending you some items at the very end. Once I get the recording, you'll get a recording of this session, plus also another couple goodies that I'll go over for you as we move along here. Thank you so much for taking the time. Welcome to the webinar. You've made a really important decision by being here because a lot of life is showing up, right? And this is a day that you can change the direction of your life if you so choose. Now, you may not have realized that by being on this call with me, but it really is a way for you to put that proverbial line in the sand, and I'll teach you a fair bit more about that. So I always like to let people know that the work I do is it's a relationship, obviously a coaching kind of relationship, but I mentor you, I teach you how to do the work, and you're the person who does it. See, I'll guide you, but you are going to do that work. I have done all the heavy lifting as far as the research, countless hours, the beta testing, 2 years in the works, the expert interviews, the writing, the simplifying of those complexities of metabolism. So you really don't have to give that much thought. You just have to sort of surrender to that process because really I've got you covered. But where you'll go to work is really on implementing the strategy, and those strategies have been proven to work time after time, person after person. And I have taken this program and the previous versions of it. I've helped over 200 people work through their own metabolism mysteries. It's fantastic, and it will work for you. But I want you to do it for you and you alone. Now, sure, others will benefit by far, but you are the ultimate beneficiary of your life, and you must be the primary driver for it as well. Now, those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Sam Graber, and I work with women and men who don't like what they see in the mirror, and they're upset because they can't get into the clothes they used to wear. They can't do the things they once did with ease either, and they're scared to death that this is the best it's going to get. And honestly, they're downright angry that despite trying to do what the so-called experts have advised, they continue to rack up failures. They are ready to make the decision to follow my lead and be coachable. They want to hit that reset button on their metabolism, and they're willing to invest the time and money in themselves to do it. So if this jives, please pay close attention. And like I mentioned, the webinar will be recorded and I will send that to you. Please just make sure I have your email. And you can put that in the chat box that you'll see at the bottom of your screen. It's a little pin in a circle, I believe. But anyway, so go on in there, because now I'm here on my new iPad. Hi. Good to see you, Becky. Awesome. So I was this person, this frustrated person who's like, all right, either my clothes are shrinking or I got to face the fact that I'm expanding. And what I was doing previously was not working. The whole eat less, move more, not working. And this spurred my passion to get to the bottom of the metabolism mystery that unfolded after the big 4-0. Now, does my strategy work before 40? I'm sure, yeah, most definitely. I've coached people of all ages, and those 39 and under are more than welcome to stay, more than welcome. See, I'd love to see you avoid what so many of us have needlessly endured for long enough. Now, if you've got excess body fat, it's a sign that your body is in biochemical crisis, and trying to diet it away will continue to fail really until the underlying problem is corrected. See, I help you fix that problem once and for all, and we do it with real food. Never buy one of those overpriced, overpromised gimmicks ever again. It's like up to this point, I always say to people, we've been part of a massive hoodwink. The advice of the self-proclaimed experts has really missed the mark by a long shot. Like super huge long shot, because we've been told these things that are really based on nothing. There's no science behind them. Now, if you were told you had a spot on your lung and it's most likely a tumor, would you quit smoking or would you just cut back? Well, you'd quit, of course, right? Anyone in their right mind. So now what if your doc told you he believed you could manage the size of the tumor with drugs? What would you do then? Would you continue to smoke and bet your life on those drugs? Hmm. Now let's apply this to the metabolism, more specifically the blood sugar spectrum, and then I'll tie this into fat loss in just a moment. So the blood sugar spectrum runs from normal to full-blown diabetes type 2 with a wide range of gray in between. Ooh, hey, side note, this used to be called adult onset diabetes, but now there are so many kids with it, you can no longer call it adult onset. How about that? It's terrible. So the road to diabetes usually starts with crummy energy, maybe a little muffin top, a little expansion. Now then it works its way into elevated blood sugar, blood pressure, some high LDL, you know, the bad guy. Now, unless you've read my blog, you know that's a lie. Then we pepper in some high triglycerides in a low protective HDL, the high density lipoprotein, and you've got yourself a first-class ticket on the Diabetes Express. All tracks lead to diabetes type 2. Whether you are obese or not at this point is irrelevant. Your body is in crisis. Now, conventional wisdom attempts to manage these problems with drugs and more drugs. See, in our tumor scenario, your doc pulls out the prescription pad, but also highly recommends, demands even, that you stop smoking because that was the original cause. So no doc in their right mind is going to say, go ahead, keep smoking. Just make it organic, non-GMO, and cut down the number of cigarettes a day, and just take this pill 3 times every day. No, that's not going to happen. But in the case of the blood sugar spectrum, your initial problems, see, they don't seem related to your blood sugars. They show up as the things I mentioned before, the high LDL, high triglycerides, high blood pressure, an expanding waistline, that crummy energy where you have all these crashes and crash and burns, highs and crashes, and that low protective cholesterol. So when a few of these items are present and you have your visit with your doc, the person is diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. See, here is the first clue that this is a problem caused by food. And the medical community even named it. So despite the name though, you come out of your doc's office, scripts in hands. You got a statin for your cholesterol, you got an ACE inhibitor for your high blood pressure, maybe a pill that obliterates your appetite so you don't eat so much in their terms, and so on. So boom, you've got this nice little drug cocktail, and that means hundreds, if not thousands a month for big pharma. See, in our tumor scenario, that doc immediately recommends smoking cessation. Yet in our obesity and blood sugar spectrum gone awry, your doc flies right past the what's causing the problem stop on the tour and lands smack dab in the pharmacy. Not one mention of stopping the offending activity. So what is the offending activity? Well, spoiler alert, you could pretty much classify all this blood sugar wonkiness, which is an official term, and all the excess body fat as a carb tolerance problem. So unlike our smoking scenario, quit the offending activity, your doc recommends that you eat better carbs and manage your sugars and weight with drugs. See, across the board, eating carbs is touted as a necessity. It's essential to a balanced diet. There's no definition of what a balanced diet is anyway, and they say it's a necessity for all humans. But now I implore to you that carb-intolerant person, carbs are their nemesis. And I'll dive into that in just a few minutes in my 12-step strategy. You may be asking though, and my clients always ask me, well, why is it that they are recommending drugs for a food problem? And I always look at them like, that is the question of all questions. And you're not going to like the answer. The long and the short of it is ignorance. And this is how we've always done it, itis. And there's lots and lots of money in managing symptoms. So remember that metabolic syndrome that I mentioned, the scripts, you've got the statins, they're big money. You've got ACE inhibitors, more big money. Diabetes drugs, oh baby, we're talking big, big money there. And the obesity profiteers, see, they want their cut too. Our whole so-called healthcare system is set up around it. Now, to recap, instead of looking what's causing this problem, they slap a diagnosis on it so that there's something to bill for, and they basically name it chronic and progressive. And wham, you're on the RX Express for life. You start out with one prescription to which maybe another's added and then another. And then this little drug cocktail, it'll start to fail. And it always does. And then bam, you're on insulin for life. And the dosage keeps increasing and increasing along with your belt size. So you get heavier and heavier, as anyone who's ever taken insulin will tell you. You kind of get so heavy that they start talking bariatric surgery, which is more money, by the way, and you're practically begging for it at this point, hoping you're big enough to qualify, because you're so uncomfortable with what they've been recommending is failing miserably. See, it's such a vicious cycle. And I don't think most people realize, diabetes has become so common, and it's just like pretty much everybody knows someone with it. But they never really take you down the road of what to expect when you've been given this diagnosis and when your body has this challenge. It's a vicious cycle. Neuropathy, eye problems, eventually kidney compromise, which leads to dialysis. Now forget keeping any job or hobbies you like, because dialysis runs your life now. 3 times a week, 4 hours a session, during the workday, mind you. Talk about inconvenient. Now, do you have that type of career to account for this time suck? And how about other responsibilities? Kids, aging parents, volunteer work? Will you be able to get to and from your sessions? See, this is not a future you want. And conventional wisdom is forcing us into it by not addressing the actual problem. Too many carbohydrates. See, remember, diabetes type 2 is considered by conventional wisdom to be chronic and progressive in nature. Now, I use air quotes because pretty much every allopathic doc will tell you that diabetes is a lifelong sentence. A diagnosis. Really is like a sentence when you think of all the things that's coming if you consider it chronic and progressive and just go down that continual road. Because it is going to get progressively worse if we don't go to the source. Diabetes type 2 is totally preventable. And if you have it, it's totally reversible with some work. And it's quite possible that you'll be left with some permanent damage from accumulation of the fallout, depending how long this has been going on. So there's no time to waste. And it's not an instant fix. Nothing I talk to people all the time, and I let them know there's going to be work. Nothing is a quick fix. And those pills, they're not fixing anything. They're just adding to the chemical soup that is a very confused biochemistry. See, diabetes is an eating disorder caused by disordered eating, period. Case closed. It is food caused. And if you just manage it, it's kind of like managing a ticking time bomb with a broken timer display. You never really know when and if it's going to go off. And instead of working to disarm the thing, you just keep coddling it and carrying it around with you. Crazy, right? Like no one would do that. But it's the same with the blood sugar spectrum. So I say, let's dismantle this ticking time bomb once and for all. And thank goodness we don't have to understand the intricacies of electrical engineering to flip on a switch and have light. Likewise, you do not have to understand the inner workings of the human physiology to flip on the switch for health and vitality and fat loss. So I'm going to compress a lot of biochemistry into our remaining time, but I'm going to go right for the heart of the matter. This metabolic syndrome and diabetes type 2 get their start from your body's need to increase insulin because a person ate more carbs than the body could handle. And they did this consistently and pretty much all day long because they're following the advice of the self-proclaimed experts. How many times have you heard this? Eat 6 times a day, 3 meals, 3 snacks. Make sure you have balanced carbohydrates and proteins. We've been taught all this stuff all these years, and a lot of that was based on consensus or belief or lobbyists. And don't even get me started. The lack of solid evidence to back conventional wisdom, there's just nothing there. So I dive down into the real stuff, and I teach my clients how to do that too, because it's very, very important. Now, all carbs become glucose and fructose and a few other oses. Simple, complex, it doesn't matter. We're going to address glucose here because fructose, that's a whole other animal that needs its own lesson, and we'll do that another time. But eating excess carbs, it will eventually lead to more and more insulin in the system, and that's called hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin in the blood. Emia is for blood. So this in turn continues to signal the body to store more energy for a rainy day. See, insulin drives fat storage. That's its job. And the more insulin present, the stronger that signal. Exactly. So when insulin is high, you are storing fat, not burning it, not even one fatty acid. Now, after a while, maybe years, the body will become what's termed insulin resistant, just as it becomes resistant to any strong, prolonged signal. See, it has to dampen that signal so it can protect itself from damage. I like to think of it as a firewall for your computer. See, it's a survival mechanism for for your computer. But in your body, it's basically a survival mechanism where your body's saying, she's trying to kill me with all these carbs, because it's stuffed to the hilt with the stuff, and it has maxed out capacity. So it starts to say, shut down the system. It's trying to not have so much insulin around. It is merely trying to survive to fight another day. Now, it is estimated that over 60 million Americans are full-blown insulin resistant right now, with many others on their way. Now, some kids are actually practically born insulin resistant because the mothers were so hyperinsulinemic when that child was in utero. And it's estimated that over 60 million Americans are full-blown right now. It's wild. So I want you to keep that 60 million number in mind when we talk drug money, because it's what it's all about here. Lots of zeros and multiple commas. Yachts, mansions, sports cars, and not yours or mine. We're talking theirs, all right? See, for most people, they have plenty of insulin, and it's doing its job, but it cannot shove the glucose anywhere else. I mean, insulin's been shoving it everywhere it can go. So eventually, it spills over into the bloodstream. There is nowhere else for it to go. You're finally diagnosed with diabetes, and then you're told to manage it with drugs. So along the way, your blood sugar, keeping this in mind, your blood sugar was most likely registering at normal levels because your insulin was doing its job. But again, there comes that point, it's that critical mass, and the body's like, phew, I'm out. I can't do it anymore. So that's why you finally start to see it. But that sugar has been stuffed everywhere in your body up to that point. This problem could have been going on definitely years, could have been decades. And this is how it goes down pretty much every time. So I've heard this story time after time after time. Now there's going to be small variations in the drug cocktail because there's a new one coming out every week, it seems. And there's usually some flippant, lose some weight, which is basically doctor talk for eat less, move more, which is proven time after time does not work. And I will show you exactly why not. But all that stuff, every time, this is the story I hear, client after client has been on this road. And it's a horrible road, horrible road. See, some of these drugs, they actually cause the pancreas to make more insulin because those sugars are not controlled. Again, there's plenty of insulin around. But what happens is eventually there's so much, and the pancreas has done its work for so long that pancreas gets burned out. And that's a terrible thing because it was doing its job. So this is the stuff that just makes my head explode because I think, why do we do this to people? It's a terrible, terrible thing. So how do we clean up the mess? You know, without drugs. People are always asking me, is there something I can take? Is there something natural? I'm like, I have the most natural solution for you. It's what you eat. It is the most natural thing. There's no shake, no potion, no patch, no pink drink, none of that stuff. It's what we eat and when. Okay, so it's a twofold process. Step number one is we need to decrease the supply. Part number two is we need to burn up what's already in the body. See that sugar that's been shoved into every nook and cranny because it was just, the body just had too much. Insulin was doing its job. It's shoving all that stuff in where it can. And then honestly, what's also happened is your liver, this amazing organ that's totally unappreciated, but your liver has created new fat cells to store that energy because it has so much on hand. So your liver literally creates new fat molecules from excess glucose. It's called de novo lipogenesis. It's an amazingly complex situation, but the body is very smart. It knows what to do. We're just giving it too much to do. So you've had all this excess sugar in the system, and it is damaging your tissue because when sugar's in there, it starts to get sticky, and it's called glycolated. It's this whole crazy big process, but it starts to damage little vessels. A lot of the research I'm doing right now is showing that diabetes is actually a cardiovascular disease. So we mistakenly say it's just a blood sugar thing, but really the disease, the damage happens in our vasculature and those tiny capillaries. That's why it happens in your hands and feet. You get that diabetic neuropathy, your eyes and your kidneys. There are tons of little vessels in there. That's where the damage happens. So folks, when it comes to carbs, it's time to break up. And it's not you, it's them. They have got to go. And at this point, I think you really should be upset. And I say this to people, like I'm looking at them sometimes and I'm like, why aren't you going crazy at the fact that you've been told the wrong thing forever? And we've bought into this system of eat less, move more, here, take this. Oh, that didn't work, here, take that. When it's all boils down to what and how we eat. And that's the good news. Like I do have the answer for you. And sure, we can't do anything about the past. We can only do with what we do going forward. But it's just like we have to take a moment to kind of sit here and think, all right, I can keep doing the same thing I've been doing. I can keep following the advice of conventional wisdom that says, do these certain things. But folks, it's not working. And just because if your blood sugar hasn't hit that tilt level yet, does not mean this stuff is not going on in the background. Now, I want you to be sure that I think I've got everyone on the call. Yeah, I see everyone there. I've got everyone's email already, so that's awesome. Sometimes if there's someone that sneaks on in the middle, I just want to make sure I've got that because I'm going to send you a recording of this video or the webinar, and I'm also going to send you a couple different items for your information because the bottom line is we've been misled. We all have, and you and I both suffered needlessly, all the while. These guys have handsomely profited. It's unbelievable the amount of money around an issue that's caused and continued by food and can be solved by food. See, if we'd addressed the cause of the problem in the first place, like in our smoking scenario, not just silence the system, but truly address the problem, we'd be in the clear, slim and off that diabetes spectrum by now. But you didn't know how all this works, and I bet what I share today probably hasn't come across most people's path ever. And I remember a couple weeks back, I had this wonderful woman on a phone consult with me, and she wanted to lose 50 pounds. And I was like, okay. She tells me she's 190 and she is 5'5". She carries most of her weight below the belt line, and she's been overweight most of her adult life since having kids. So about 25 years, she says. Now, within 5 minutes of speaking, she literally started verbally beating up on herself. I have no discipline. I have no self-control. I am lazy. I never finish a diet I start. Heck, I don't finish anything I start anymore. I've bought so many programs and I just can't get this weight off. And like literally as she's saying this, I just had to interrupt her. And I try not to interrupt people, but I have a strict no negative self-talk permitted policy. Because you see, I myself am in recovery from self-judgment purgatory, and I can spot it a mile away and will call that to the mat every time because I want to interrupt that pattern for people. And that self-judgment, like default button, it's not uncommon. I hear it all the time. So we've been taught that being overweight is a character flaw. See, we're either a glutton or a sloth. We're weak and we lack that certain something that trim and fit people that they naturally have. Now, the obesity profiteers, they love to keep us dissatisfied and frustrated and blaming ourselves for our weakness. Yeah. See, that's where the big money is. Make you think something's wrong with you. They market those shakes, those bars, those pink drinks, the patches, the energy boosters, and all those other shenanigans to us. They market it so strongly, and they're ridiculously overpriced, mind you. If you've ever looked at those, you're like, it's a shake, $120 a month. What are you talking about? But we buy them because we're conditioned that there is something broken in us and that we need something from the outside to fix that which is broken in us. So we've got to deprive ourselves by drinking this chalky junk and eating their bars that taste terrible because we're not deserving of joy from food, for we are gluttons, right? Well, that is the great betrayal. And in my mind, it is utter bullshit. Yeah, I said it. It's the truth. I'm throwing the bullshit flag on that because we do not have to deprive ourselves. And the psychological and biochemical warfare that we've waged with our own bodies, that has so much collateral damage. We get distorted self-image. We think all these horrible things about ourselves, and we often pass that to our children. That's more collateral damage. We spend years hating ourselves, thinking we are weak and undeserving of love, joy, and any other thing that we deem we're unworthy of. And all this because we just didn't know this information, nor do we have a strategy to manage our weight in a healthy way without waging war. See, we waged war, and the body wants peace. It boils down to biochemistry. I know. I start saying biochemistry and everyone's like, oh my God. But really, this stuff's cool. And I know I'm a total nerd and I geek out about stuff. But I try to boil it down to simplify it because that's important. I think you need to know a bit about what's going on inside. So this is what happens biochemically when we eat. All right, so let's take a little look. I know it's a lot on there, but this is basically a synopsis. So here's the carbs that happens on the inside. Got our Krebs cycle. Now we're going to break down protein over here, and then this is how lipids or fats get assimilated. Seems rather straightforward, right? No? I know. It took me years to learn all this stuff, let me tell you. So how about this one? This is popular science's take on metabolism, and it's modeled after a subway. And honestly, I think it's rather brilliant. Metabolism map, and they go through, and here's where the Krebs are, and here's where the fats are getting broken down. But it's still rather complex, and I totally get that. But I want to note, aren't you so thankful that you do not have to think about all that? I mean, could you imagine trying to do all that stuff and your life? Get out of here. So it's incredible that you've got this amazingly smart and resilient body that is doing all this for you. The one thing it cannot control is what you put into the system. So that's what we got to think about, okay? Because the bottom line, the hormone that tells your body what to use, to how to use what you ate, whether it's for immediate fuel or to store it for future use, that chemical makeup is wonky at this point. See, there's a really detailed process, as you just saw, about how all that works. And I go into that in stages with clients. But for discussion here, just note that this is a hormone and it is out of balance. And until that balance is restored, your body will absolutely favor storing energy as fat instead of burning it for fuel. It literally can't do anything else. So the seemingly schizo part is that despite all the energy and storage that you have as body fat, you're hungry. And there is no amount of food that can truly satisfy this hunger. It is an insatiable appetite. And that's where that guilt comes in, because you've been told that this is something you should control. Well, you can stop shooting on yourself because it is not up to your willpower nor your self-discipline. It is a biochemical mishap going on, and you must address it on that level to correct the course. Now, the answer is rather simple. It just takes some patience in doing the right work. And please do not mistake the word simple for easy. They are not synonymous at all. but we need to switch that metabolism because you've got, I love this, this E and F. You got to switch that metabolism from being sugar fueled to being fat fueled so that you can burn up that excess sugar that's stored as fat and start healing your body from the carb fallout. And your liver needs to be told to convert adipose tissue or body fat and dietary fats into a fatty acid called a ketone. Now you can do this. It's the best thing. And it is only done when insulin is absent or at a very, very low threshold. But if we're eating all day long and raising that insulin all day long, on and off, you're never going to tap into the fat. So what happens when you work with me and work through the program is you start to burn ketones for energy. And FYI, your body loves being fueled by ketones, and it makes all the glucose your brain can desire. Your body is so smart, and it does that for you. So I want to go through one of these models with you. That whole calories in, calories out thing or conventional model of weight loss, it has been proven wrong on so many occasions. I have lost count, but I want to review this with you. This is the out of date up top. So what they say is here, you're either eating too much, you're overeating, or you're lazy, right? So here we are, we're a glutton or we're a sloth. So those two things are going to lead to too much circulating the metabolic fuels or fats or glucose. And if that happens, then we're going to do fat storage. This is the conventional method. It's basically like just a math. And I love when I hear someone going, well, it's just simple math. You're just eating too much and you're not exercising enough. You're taking in more calories than you're expending. The body doesn't do math like this, y'all. The food you take in goes through that whole do I need to review the biochemistry? No, please don't. But that biochemistry, it goes through all that. It's not just saying, oh, here's one, make sure I burn one. Take in one, burn one. It does not work that way. And it has never worked that way. And that way was never even proven. It was all done in these little food oven. And what happens, they would put food in it and see how much energy it takes to burn it up. We don't work like that. We are not a food oven. How we work is the bottom part here, this up to date. It's called the carbohydrate insulin model, and it is spot on. So here we are. What happens? We get hungry. That's the biochemistry, causes us to increase our energy uptake. Or our body starts behaving the way it's designed. We have increased muscular need, or we have that fatigue. We start to feel sluggish, or we're feeling like our resting energy expenditure, which is basically your metabolic rate, that starts to decrease. So we're going to then decrease the amount of activity we have or that we expend, which then is going to decrease these metabolic fuels that we have, the fats, the glucose. That then, if we have both those things happening, is going to lead to increased fat storage. And it's a cycle that works, but it's based on the chemistry. The biochemistry causes the action. Either your biochemistry is saying, hey, we don't have enough food here or enough energy stored, even though there might be plenty of fat. There's this thing, I will bring up the name. It's called leptin. It's another hormone. And when that gets out of whack because of all this insulin being present and then bringing cortisol with stress, biochemical nightmare. So if we just take a medication to try to trick the body, yeah, that might work temporarily, but it's not going to work long term. The bottom line is let's start feeding our system differently. Because again, if we keep doing the same thing we've been doing and then expect different results, you've all heard this, that's the definition of insanity. So if what you're doing now isn't working, we got to change what you're doing. I mean, that to me is the simplest, and that's why I say this, it's a simple process, but it's not easy because every day we're basically faced with decisions. We've got triggers everywhere. So at the end of today's webinar, I'm going to ask you to make a decision. The options are yes and no. No think it overs, because really those are just no's confused by someone with the inability to say no. Remember the kind of clients I work with. I want those all in, the ones that are ready to make an investment in themselves of time and money. Because sometimes, a no is the best answer because you're just not ready, and that is okay. I always say, I have 3 teens at home at the moment, so I can handle a no. No big deal. But all kidding aside, I really want clients that are eager to make that change and are ready to do it and are ready to, roll up their sleeves and get to work. That is the only way you'll succeed. Now, recall our strategy. I'm going to go through a little more of a strategy for you. But our strategy for resetting the metabolism, it must be twofold. So we must stop bogging down the system with the garbage, number one, and then we have to burn what we already have. And my 12-step strategy, it covers both of those, and it tackles the mental and emotional part of the solution, because that aspect, that is missing from most programs out there, because, in all honesty, most people are afraid to go there. I am not. I dive in head first, boom, let's go. Because if we do not handle that, lasting change is a pipe dream, and you'll be yet again searching for another program 6 months, a year from now. Doesn't have to be that way. I don't like that. So I'm going to send you this in PDF, in this information. I've got a 12-step principle. Oh, let me go. Got ahead of myself. I'm all excited. All right, so this document here, I'm going to send that to you in a PDF form because I've got your emails. If anyone snuck on while I wasn't listening or hearing the doorbell, please be sure to put your email in the chat, but I believe I've got everybody's. All right, so let's just go through this real brief. We're going to look at number one. Now, I always want to review this because step number one is number one for a reason. It will make the biggest impact in your life when the actions are right for the job, and that is to take immediate action. Because the default setting of the human is to procrastinate. Believe me, I know. I'm a procrastinator in recovery every day. I'm working towards it. But I want you to set yourself up for success by taking immediate action with the things that are going to drive your life in the direction you want it. Now, you may not feel like doing whatever it is, something simple, something more complex, but keep this in mind. Activity drives feelings. It's amazing. It's not the other way around. So have you ever done something like you were just totally dreading and avoiding and putting it off? And then once you were done, you're like, that wasn't that bad. We all have, like every day. So take immediate action. And at the end of the day, it's so much better when you get to check off those boxes instead of carrying them over to tomorrow and the next day and the next day. It feels so good. Now, number two is critical to short and long-term success. You must track your actions. If you don't, you won't know what to change to get the desired results, because hope and pray weight loss, not a real thing. Nope, there's a reason it's not out there, because it doesn't work. So you need to track what you eat so you can find your best formula. And you learn what portions really look like, because that's the key. Is like you don't have to track the rest of your life, but you need to track what your normal foods are and have an idea of what an appropriate amount of protein for you looks like. That's really important. And we usually underestimate how much we eat, and we snack and we just don't even think about it. And it's a human thing. So if you don't keep record, you'll keep bouncing from shiny object to shiny object. So that's just something to me that's super, super important, is to just make sure that we are keeping track. Because if we don't, sometimes we start to fail and we start to kind of flail around, and the wrong approach can really just lead to quitting. And quitting on your long-term health is not an option. I like this saying here: giving up on your goal because of a setback is like slashing the other 3 tires because you got a flat. Not on my watch. We're not going to do that, because I have it laid out for you. There's no need at all. Now, number 3 is a strategy that has been used for decades, but often incorrectly. So you don't just run into time-restricted eating willy-nilly. You have got to convert the body to fat burning first and running on ketones. Then you dial in the timing for feeding and fasting. I introduce this in the second phase of my program when I work with people. Because what time-restricted eating does is it minimizes the amount of time that the body has that insulin. So remember, as I was saying earlier, if you're eating all day long, you've got insulin going like this. And then because your body's got selective hearing, it's no longer seeing or hearing that insulin. So the pancreas has to increase that level of insulin. So then its highs are even higher. And eventually your body is just always has insulin present. And remember, insulin is that fat storage hormone. So if you constantly have this insulin running through your veins, you're never going to tap into the fat. So the time restricted feeding, that is where it's at. And that can be really your secret weapon. And the cool thing about it is it costs nothing. It's totally free and it's incredibly convenient because you're like literally doing nothing. It's amazing. So now 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to let you read those when I send you the information, but those are looking at protein. Protein is power, and you are made out of protein, like everything in you is protein. So it's critical that you get enough in your diet and that your body is set up to recycle old proteins and make new ones out of the recycled parts. That's a cool thing. That's called autophagy. Really cool stuff coming out about that the last year. So I help you find your PQ, your protein quotient. Everyone's is different, and even same body styles and body sizes, they're different. You don't want too little, and too much is really not necessary. And like too much can be dangerous, but it's also just, too much is a waste of your food money. There's no need to spend all that money on food if you're not needing it, right? So number 5, count your carbs and make them count. Because remember what I discussed earlier, that starting point for metabolic syndrome and diabetes spectrum is carbs. So you need to know how much is too much and what the bottom line for you is and what helps you from becoming insulin resistant if you're not already now. And if you are, the 2 phases, we want to start cutting out the amount we're putting in and we want to start burning off what we already have present. I would say to people, it's like, that's prepaid food, right? You've already paid for it. You've already eaten it. Your body's like, hey, storing it for later. So why not tap into that? I mean, it's just one of the coolest things. So I teach you how to do that in my programs. Now, number 6 is the most confusing for people because like literally we need to be in a recovery group for this. If you're over 40, like me, you grew up in that low fat, no fat craze. I mean, we ate rice cakes and low fat cookies. Those things are disgusting, but we ate them because they told us that we needed to, right? So, I mean, what's the point of living if we get to just eat that cardboard? And we've been led to believe, really led to believe that that like animal fats, that they're bad for us. We've been taught that these things are out to kill us, and these seed oils, those refined, bleached, and deodorized things, oh yeah, they're better than nature. Sure, no problem. Sometimes I get teenage syndrome, roll my eyes, like, are you seriously kidding me? This is what people are saying, because this stuff's been refuted over and over. But the public is still being misled to believe that these fats, saturated fat in particular, the natural ones, that they're out to kill us, and that the natural saturated fat and cholesterol, that they're public enemy number 1. They're just told, you guys, these are the worst things you could possibly have in your body. We must be at war with them. Here, take this pill. It's not true. You need to favor those healing fats like coconut oil, ghee, and butter, and leave the seed and those grain oils on the shelf because they don't belong in your body. And FYI, there is no such thing as a canola. It was created in a lab to be a cheap alternate to real oil, and it doesn't spoil. And vegetable oil, that stuff is soybean oil. That's not a vegetable, police. So the longer the shelf life of your food, the shorter yours will be. And if your food can't spoil, there is no food in your food. Those are 2 rules to live by. I will go to my grave defending those because that is truth. Now, number 7 on our 12 tips is the sweet tooth. Get that baby extracted, like if it was only that easy. Because our sweet meters of the modern day, they're broken. We've been raised to be practically sugar addicts from the very beginning. Now, in nature, sweet is associated with safe to eat. So we are literally hardwired to seek the sweet. And in the wild, that's so good. But in today's world, where we've engineered the wild out of life, that is not good. It's bad. In fact, it's very bad. It's so bad, it's killing us slowly and painfully because even our fruit is sweeter than ever. And it's bred to be that way, whether it's a GMO or just good old-fashioned propagation. See, this stuff is sweet, and we love it. You know, and just a little aside, they have to, for getting a child to take on new food, most regular foods takes them 7 to 12 exposures to start to either eat it or not. Sweet, 1 exposure. If something's sweet, baby love that. So that's pretty interesting. And believe me, the food companies take full advantage of that. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there are over 70 names for sugar in food. That doesn't even touch those alternate sweeteners. Some examples are like your agave nectar, your corn syrup, your sucrose, anything with an ose, your rice syrup, again, no, really anything with a syrup, dextrose. Now, instead of saying high fructose corn syrup, because we all know that's bad, 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 they'll do HFCS. So really, I mean, it's still high fructose corn syrup, or they'll say lower glucose, high fructose corn syrup. I mean, it's just crazy. The terms they use, the list goes on and on. Now, being on the call tonight, I'm going to send you a little cheat sheet. It's a 1-pager. You can print that out and take with you to the grocery store. And just kind of as you're going through, or even in your own pantry, circle the words on there that are in your foods. You will be astonished. Because if you buy something with a box and it has one of those nutrition facts boxes on it, it's most likely been altered in some fashion, ergo processed. So food that is processed, that's done because they want to prolong its shelf life, not yours. So my rule of thumb here is if it has more than 5 ingredients, I want you to pay close attention. So here's a kind bar. Kind bars. I mean, we know those. I see nuts, I see stuff. Okay, I see a peanut, I see an almond. Awesome. So what we want to do is look at those first 5 ingredients. So here we go. We go peanuts, almonds, honey, sugar, non-GMO glucose. Buzzword, non-GMO. Ooh, non-GMO must be good. So we've got whole food, sugar, sugar, sugar. 3 kinds of sugar in the first 5 ingredients in a kind bar. I mean, we think that our kids should eat these. These are good. They're kind. The first 5 ingredients, 3 are sugar. Now, let me tell you why they do this. This is the workaround. A manufacturer has to list the ingredients by weight. So the way they work around that is they just break up the sugar into different ingredients. It's crazy. It just drives me nuts. So I'm going to send you that list so you can see when you're buying processed food, which pretty much anything that's going to be in a box with a wrapper is processed. And I know we want to think it's not, but even those peanuts, they're prepared in a way that all these other oils are added, but because it's part of the processing of the whole food of the peanut, this is another workaround, they don't have to list that crappy oil in there. It's terrible, but I'm going to help you see through all that. I'm going to give you like literally a decoder ring. I used to have these glasses that I would play with and do my skits with my clients. Now, like, you put these on and it helps you see through all the stuff, you know, because there's so much marketing hype. It's insane. And for people like me, it makes me angry because these people are willingly they're misrepresenting things, and they're misleading people. And folks are out here buying kind bars with 8 grams of protein, thinking it's health food. It's just a vehicle for sugar. It's terrible, terrible. I'm a little riled up today. So now number 9, we're almost done. Number 9 is proper hydration. You have to have the hydration formula. I want you to just commit this to memory. It's super easy. Take what you weigh, divide it by 2, drink that many ounces. So because I like simple math, if you weigh 200 pounds, divide that by 2, that's 100 ounces of water a day. Now, don't go out tomorrow and start drinking 100 ounces if you're drinking like 8 today. Work your way up into it. That's really easy math. And when you're thirsty, you're probably already a little dehydrated. So just try to sip on that throughout the day. I always have this guy close to me. This is 20 ounces, 4 of those a day, boom, I'm good. Sometimes I just swig a bunch down because I ain't got time for all the drinking. So it's just what I do, and it helps me amazingly. Now, the proverbial elephant in every room is stress. It's our constant companion. It weaves in and out of our lives like it's been invited, but it runs our lives for the most part. And stress isn't just unpleasant, it's deadly, because stress, it wreaks havoc on that biochemistry. Remember I showed you the old model and then the new model, that the carbohydrate insulin? That biochemistry is what causes us to eat too much, or what causes us to be what people are going to term lazy, but to be inactive, because our biochemistry is just we're zonked, and stress has a lot to do with it, because it's the challenge here is your body again is marinating in this insulin because of us following conventional wisdom, what we've been taught. And what stress does is it releases cortisol, and I know you've all heard that term, but cortisol, that was designed in our beautiful, amazing body by the designer. It's basically there, and it was once what we needed as a running away from something trying to eat us kind of thing. But it's now we just have stress all the time. So what was once escaping for our life is now an everyday, all day kind of event. And this cortisol, it renders insulin inept. So it absolutely inactivates insulin. So again, here we have these high levels of insulin because of what we're eating, but because stress is already here, and stress is everywhere, right? Even if we think we don't have stress, we've got stress. It's the modern lifestyle. So that comes in, and stress is going to then inactivate that insulin. So despite the fact that the body is absolutely marinating in insulin, it's not enough. So the pancreas sees all this, and it just becomes this huge cascade of trouble. So we need to tame that. And the way you tame it is through a mindfulness practice. And I teach my clients how to do that over time, because it's a way of us doing the calming of the stress without having to create a new biochemical pathway by taking something or whatever it may be. Now, we always want to look at sleep, because sleep is a supremely important thing for regeneration. And I teach you how to find out how to clean up your sleep, how to help you get more of it, and how to get a better quality. So that's super important too. And wrapping up, number 12 is really, really what I find as the most important part. It's don't go it alone, because honestly, I'm as independent as they come. It's a core value. Like, I teach my clients how to be independent as well, because I want you to be independent from the hype, from drugs, from taking conventional wisdom at surface value, from fake food, from limiting beliefs, from everything that does not serve you well. Because everywhere you turn, you'll be faced with some sort of marketing hype to influence you into buying into that life of convenience, but it's really a life of dependence marketed as convenience, because everywhere you go, these marketing guys, they are so good. I mean, they're just so good. So it's important for you to do this through education and flexing your habit muscle. And I couldn't say it any better than Mr. Jim Rohn, so I quote him often. We must all suffer one of two things: the pain of discipline or the pain of and regret of disappointment. Really no truer words. So the way I do things at Roxo, and I'm offering my Roxolution Clan, is an opt out of that future that so many Americans are destined to have, because they just don't know. No one breaks down this process for them, like I did for you, and that was just a glancing view of it. It's really important for us to maintain our education so that we can make the best decisions for us. And one of the ways to shorten that learning curve is to have a coach. And most adults, they've never had a coach in their adult life, and some didn't never play any sports. But having a coach really is a game changer for everything. We build in accountability. One of the things that I send to my clients every week is a weekly checklist. You're going to know what you need to be doing. You're going to put in your plan of what days you're going to exercise, what days you're going to do this and that, what all the things you have to be doing. Because I'm sure if you're like, most of us, you start this diet, and if there's no accountability, you just kind of trail off, and it's like, oh, I'll get back on next week, and then next week becomes next month. But if you've got a targeted plan every week laid out for you, all you have to do is plug it into your life. it helps make that learning process better. And over a 12-week period, you develop habits that as of now, if I told you like in 12 weeks you're going to be doing these things, you'd be like, oh, heck no, doc, there's no way I'm going to be doing that. But when you break it down over 12 weeks, you'll be amazed how much different your life can be. Because I've been a life coach for 10 years, but I've also been in a practice as a holistic doc for 25. So I've been coaching people a long, long time. I know human behavior. And, you know, I just think when you have the system set up for you and you can plug and play and learn and learn how to individualize it for you, that's the missing thing. That's really the missing thing for most of us. We need that. So here's just a quick peek at some of the menu. Real food, again, like I say, I'm a real food advocate. Now, sometimes you might be busy and need to do a shake or something. If you like to do those kind of things, I can help you determine what's a good choice versus a not so good choice. Let me show you a couple other things. So we've got our workout routine. As a retired chiropractor, I developed a system called restorative motion training, and I introduced that to my clients because not only are you rebuilding your cells and everything from the inside, I want to help you rebuild your core strength, your muscular strength. I want to help you teach your body how to move in the world, because contrary to popular belief, the body is not here to just be a clothes transporting system and a fashion piece. Your body is built to generate energy for your brain, and your brain is where life is experienced. That's where it all is. It's where it comes to live. Now, the way we do that is I develop a 4-phase system for you, and I put a computer program all together to do this. We're still ironing out some challenges, but overall it's working really well. So I designed that, and we have these mile markers, so to speak. So we break down the ultimate goal into 4 sections, and then we celebrated each of those 4 sections. But I teach you exactly how to do this. Because I don't, first I do it for you, and then I teach you how we do it, and then I teach you the why behind it, and then I teach you to do it for yourself, because that is where it's at. I don't want people dependent on me forever. I definitely want to help them and tutor and mentor, but then I get my biggest joy by like releasing you into the wild and seeing you succeeding on your own. That to me is the ultimate joy in what I do. Love, love, love it. Every week we have a Q&A call. That's really important to participate either by emailing me questions. I record those calls too, because we go through some of the details that may need to be hashed through, problem solving, any of the issues that have come up over the week. I also ask people to do some reading so we can discuss the reading. It's all really geared to help you fine tune it for yourself. So as listening tonight, and I know we're going a little bit over, we had that little minor technology challenge, but as a participant tonight, like I say, I'm going to send you an email. On that email, I'm going to have a recording. I'm going to send you the 70 plus names for sugar. I'm also going to send you the little PDF of all those 12 steps, so now you know the strategy. I'm going to send you something called a lifestyle inventory. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to offer you a gift. I want to sit down on the phone or in front of each other on the computer for 20 minutes together and do a strategy session on you. But I can't do that if I don't know some details about you. So I send this lifestyle inventory, and I ask you to complete that honestly, because we always got to be honest with each other. If we're not, there's no point of getting into coaching. But I want you to fill out what your lifestyle is like now. And then my favorite part is the back page, because that's where I ask you to give me some goals, like things that you would like to accomplish in 12 months. And then I want you to give me what's called a BHAG, like a big, hairy, audacious goal. I want to do this more than I want oxygen kind of thing. Because when we start putting those things out in the world, our consciousness goes to work on it. So I ask you to fill all that out and set up a time. I'm going to send you a link to my calendar. I've got some sections open for doing these calls. And then I ask you to call me on that day after I've already received that lifestyle inventory back, so we can talk and I can give you some specific advice and some specifics that I think you could benefit from. if as we're talking, if we feel like, hey, this is a match, like we could do some good work together, then I offer you to join in my coaching program. But if I feel you're not ready for coaching, or it's just not the right timing for you, then we part buds. It's all good. And keeps being friends. But I want to extend that gift to you. So I'm going to send you an email with all that information. I'm going to go in a moment and check the chat if there are any questions, and I'll go over any of those questions with you individually. So I'm going to wrap it up now. Thank you all for being here. Sorry we're running just a smidgy late, just with a little technicalities, but the recording should be rendered in just a few moments, and I'll send that out to you this evening. Thank you all for being here. I really, really just love seeing all your shiny faces if I was able to see them, and if not, just knowing that you're here. Hope y'all have a great night. I'll be in touch later this evening. Bye-bye. All right, let's see. We got some there. Oh, sweet. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.